Hahn-Tech Premium Trading Tools, professional quality tools designed to sharpen your edges. Hi guys, welcome to our demo video for our brand new premium indicator named Swing Pivot Trend Rotations. And as the name implies, it is based on swing pivots. And I'll explain what swing pivots are for those who are not familiar with them. And I will also give you some examples. And on the chart that you see here, you can see we've also got a chart strategy. So this is actually a trading toolbox. It's more than just an indicator. You're going to get a chart strategy used for back testing. You're going to get a chart indicator, which displays the same trend bars. It also includes two custom watch list columns shown here. I'll explain those later on in the video. But the watch list columns will show you the current trend as well as the number of bars in the current trend. And it also includes a custom scan. And the chart strategy is set up with several different types of order entries. And again, I want to remind you that chart strategies on Thinkorswim are only able to display theoretical buys and sells on the chart. They're not able to execute live trades on your account. However, towards the end of the video, I will be showing you a simulated live demo in which we show you how to watch the trades unfold on the chart strategy and place your orders and manage your orders as the trade unfolds. So with this indicator toolbox, you'll be able to optimize your parameters through backtesting, and then you'll be able to use the backtested parameters in a simulated live environment to go ahead and place your trades and test things out to make sure it's producing the profits that you expect based on your backtesting, and then eventually with the idea that you will move over to a live trading environment in which you can actually trade these signals on a live chart. And I also wanted to show you the genesis of this indicator. What I've done is taken a couple of different indicators that people are seeming to stumble over a little bit. They don't understand how they work. They don't understand the code behind them. And they're getting tripped up thinking that they can trade these signals that are on these charts, and they can't. And they don't really find out that they can't until they ask me to build them a scan, because they keep missing signals. They think that having a scan to alert them of signals will help them, and that's when they find out that no, you really can't trade these signals. These are perfect signals, aren't they? They're almost too good. Let's go ahead and take a look at the one on the left here. This is a very popular indicator called zigzag, and I encourage you to do a Google search on the zigzag. Okay, because a lot of people are using this and they don't understand the purpose of it. They don't understand the reason it was created and how it's part of a toolbox from another professional trader. They just think that they can go ahead and trade these signals, and no, it's actually part of a much broader package that is published by an individual. And I'll actually go ahead and show you his name here. I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Don't want to butcher his name. And so you can go ahead and Google that name and Google the zigzag, and you will find out that there is a whole lot more to this. Okay, you see the 1, 2, 3 wave count and the V-Trade systems. He's got an entire system based on this, and a lot of people are picking this up thinking that they can trade these perfect signals. Okay, well, you can't, because these signals are subject to repainting, and I'm going to plan to demonstrate that in a future video series. And I just want to make sure that people are aware that you can't trade this arrow or this arrow up here or this arrow down here, because they don't appear until several bars have also appeared on the chart. Okay, it's using future bars in order to place these lines at these points that appear to be perfect crossover points. Okay, and another chart study that I find people stumbling over is this one here, which is the Williams fractal pattern. This is actually a pattern, not really a chart study per se, but it's a Williams fractal. And this one right here is set to a 2-bar strength, 2 bars of equal strength on either side. So if I draw a rectangle around this, you can see the swing high right here is actually consisting of those 5 bars, 2 bars on either side of that bar that's marked. And likewise on the downside, okay, we have a swing low pivot here. Well, that's 2 bars to the left and 2 bars to the right. Now, what happens if you increase the size? Notice that you have an awful lot of these, and there seems to be a lot of noise, especially in this section of the chart. So let's say you wanted to try and clean that up. Well, you do that by increasing the size. So let's go head over here to the patterns and select patterns, and we go to the Williams fractal, and let's increase that to a value of, let's say, 8. Okay, we've gone from a value of 2 to a value of 8, and now you can see there's much fewer of these marks on the chart. Okay, and that is because these swing pivots are now using 8 bars on either side of the chart. Okay, so I'll just draw a rectangle around this one in particular. That's 8 bars to the left and 8 bars to the right. So you can see that you can increase the quality of the signal, but then you introduce a significant lag. In other words, you can't trade this signal up here. That signal doesn't exist until this bar forms, and it's not even locked in until this bar closes. Why? Because the strength is set to 8, a quantity of 8. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. These are some chart studies that people are using, and they're trying to trade these signals that seem like perfect entry points, but they're not. You have to understand how the code is working. The code is actually reading into the future to be able to identify the pattern. So what I've done is I've solved all of that to the best of my abilities, and I am making available this premium indicator, which makes use of 2 different swing pivot formations. One I call a minor swing pivot, and the other I refer to as a major swing pivot. And you can adjust the strengths on both the left and the right side to optimize the quality of the signal without compromising the ability to act on them. In other words, I found a way to reduce the amount of lag but improve the quality of the patterns themselves. So you won't really understand that until I get into the settings, so be sure to stick around. We're going to be covering a whole lot of material in this video. For instance, we're going to have a brief overview, which I'm doing right now. Then we're going to show you where to find this indicator on the Hahn-Tech, because this is a demo video, which means that this is really just an instruction manual. It teaches you how to use the indicator after you purchase it. But I understand that some people are seeing this video for the first time, and they're trying to determine whether or not this is a good fit for them. So I've got some questions prepared ahead of time that I'm going to present to you guys, and they're just questions that you can keep in mind while you're watching the video to help you understand whether or not this is going to be a good fit for you. But we're also going to show you where to find it on our website, how to place your order. Then we're going to be covering the installation and setup. We'll go ahead and review the settings and then demonstrate the settings on the chart study and strategy, as well as the custom watch list columns and scan. And then we're going to go ahead and show you how to run the scan that's included with this package. And then we're going to show you example charts. So for people who are wondering, does this plot on Forex? Does it plot on futures? Can I put it on a Heikin-Ashi chart or a tick chart or a range bar chart? We're going to go ahead and review a lot of different charts so that your questions will be answered. And here's the other very important element of the video that I mentioned earlier, and that is the live demo. This is where we show you how to manually enter and manage your orders in the same way that the chart strategy is reporting them during the backtest report. So the idea is for you to be able to do your own backtesting, optimize your own parameters, find something that works for the stocks that you trade and the risk-reward ratio that you prefer. And then the chart strategy, once you get everything set up the way you want, you go ahead and follow the chart strategy. The signals will plot, and I'll show you how to manage your orders to match what those signals are showing on the chart from the chart strategy itself. And now I will take some time to cover the legal and moral obligations of any video containing material of this type, which is to clearly state that I am not a professional trader. I am not a certified financial advisor. Nothing in this video should be considered a recommendation or a solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument. Trading involves risk, and that risk means that you may lose all or more than all of the money you have deposited in your broker's account. Along with that, I will also point out that with strategies, you have some additional declarations here, right here from Thinkorswim themselves. Okay, and I'll go ahead and blow that up a little bit so that you can see it clearly. The study parameters and data use historical market data and information gathered by TD Ameritrade. All output is for informational and educational use only, is not an investment recommendation or advice, and should not be relied upon in making the decision to buy or sell a security or pursue a particular investment strategy. Okay, it's very important. I know we have to cover those disclaimers and give you those warnings, and at the same time we're making available these tools and showing you how to use these tools to identify edges in the market and setups that you might want to trade in the future. So please be very disciplined in your approach to backtesting. You want to make sure you do it carefully. You want to make sure you do it thoroughly. You want to make sure that you test everything on a simulated account before you start trading on a live account. And when you do move from simulated trading to a live trading environment, you want to do so with limited size. Those are all just basic guidelines for being smart about applying your knowledge in the markets to your trading. And I'll cap that off by reminding you that these are tools, and tools are inanimate objects. They lie on the bench until they are picked up. And if they are picked up and put into the hands of a skilled technician, then they can do marvelous things. But if they are picked up and put into the hands of an untrained individual, they can cause great damage and harm. So take this seriously, be intentional about your work, and understand that you need to take the time to learn how to use the tool properly and effectively. I also wanted to mention that this video does serve as the full and complete user manual for these indicators, and this is not really designed to be sales and marketing. I'm not trying to make a sales pitch here. My goal in this video is to show you how to adjust the various settings in the indicators to get the behavior that you are seeking to match with your existing strategies or come up with your own. But I do understand that many people will be viewing this video also to determine whether they want to purchase these indicators. So I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm going to show you where to locate them on our website, and I'm going to show you what's included in the indicator toolbox, and then we can get into the details. And I'd like to review a list of questions that I prepared beforehand. These questions are really designed to help you ask the right questions while you're viewing this video, in case you are trying to determine whether or not this is the right indicator for you. And these questions will help guide you through that process, I hope, and understand whether or not this is the right indicator for you. The basic concept is if you can answer yes to at least 3 of these questions, then it's probably a good fit. If you can answer yes to more than 3, then it's absolutely going to be a good fit for you. And so let's go ahead and review these really quickly before we move on to the rest of the video. The first question, do I already use support resistance levels and or swing high-low pivots in my trading setups? As I showed you in the overview, this indicator is based on minor and major swing pivots, and those create support and resistance levels, and those support and resistance levels are used to create the entries and exits. Next question, does my current trading setup include criteria for overbought, oversold conditions? This indicator does include a filter for overbought and oversold, which will filter out certain signals if those conditions are met. And you have a selection. You can select between an RSI or a stochastic, and you can turn that option on or off. So yes, you can include overbought, oversold conditions in these setups. Do I typically identify trend direction based on the structure of the price action? This goes back to question number 1. It's all about the swing high-low pivots. Those are structures. I don't call them patterns, I call them structures. They're structures within the market where buyers and sellers meet a point of mutual agreement, and then they decide in a different direction. That's what these structures are, and that's what this is based on, the price action. It's not based on a moving average. It's really not based upon anything else but the structure of the price action. Next question, do I believe that backtesting my setups will help me be a better trader? So this package does include a chart strategy, and we have plenty of resources on the Hahn-Tech website that show you how to use chart strategies for backtesting, how to export the backtesting report, and how to analyze that in a spreadsheet. And the idea is that with this tool, you can adjust your parameters for the particular stocks and time frames that you want to trade, and then adjust them to fit your own risk-reward, win-loss parameters and optimize them, and then test them in a simulated live market to make sure that your optimizations are fruitful when you try to trade them going forward. And this last question is very similar to it. It's just taking it up another notch. And that is, am I willing to put in the time and effort to perform exhaustive backtesting and analyze the results to find optimum parameters for my setups? If you do backtesting properly, it is terribly boring and tedious. It's like watching paint dry or grass grow. It's not fun for most people. It's a lot of time spent staring at spreadsheets, crunching numbers, analyzing data, adjusting parameters, optimizing parameters, going back, readjusting. It's not meant for everyone. But if you are really into that kind of thing and you've been really hungering for a tool that will help you to backtest strategies based on market price structure, then this might be the exact tool for you. But even if this is a hard no, even if question number 5 is absolutely not, I'm not interested, then this indicator still has plenty of value for other people, especially if you can answer yes to at least 3 of those 5 questions. Okay, I hope these questions are helpful. And again, they're just here as a guide. I don't need the answers. They're just intended to help you ask the right questions as you view the rest of this video, trying to understand whether or not this is the right indicator for you. Let's take a quick look at the topics list for our video to make sure we understand where we're at. Right now, we are on where to find this indicator package on Hahn-Tech. We've completed the overview. After I show you where to locate this indicator on the Hahn-Tech website, the entire rest of the video is dedicated to teaching you how to adjust the settings and how those settings impact the behavior, as well as the other items here, the example charts and the live demo. Let's go ahead and mosey on over to the Hahn-Tech website. And once you get to the Hahn-Tech website, all you do is access the main menu at the top here, Premium Indicators, and then go to Thinkorswim Premium Trading Tools, and that will land you on this page. And if you scroll down, you will see the entire list of premium trading tools that we have available at the moment. And this is the subject of this video, swing, pivot, trend, rotations. You will see that for each indicator, we've got a demo video available, and there's a link available for each indicator. There's also a button for order here. All that does is it takes you down to the order form, and then there's some prices that are listed here. These prices are subject to change. In fact, every January I have a price increase, so don't be surprised if you are watching this video sometime after it was published that these prices have increased. And for each of our indicators, I've also provided sample charts. There's 4 charts that you can view, and all you have to do is click on any one of those charts to view it in detail, and you can actually blow it up even to full screen beyond this. And I just wanted you to take a look at these because it will give you a basic rundown on the indicator and help you understand some of the elements that are included and some of the features that it presents. Here it's showing the custom watch list column and how it corresponds to what is displayed on the chart. And then the last screenshot shows you the custom scan. We're going to actually build this custom scan towards the end of this video, so keep this in mind. I'll go ahead and refresh your memory when we get to that point in the video. In order to place your order, you can click the Order Here button, or you can simply scroll down until you get to the order form. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that this particular indicator on the order form, the swing, pivot, trend, rotations, that is the subject of this particular video. Notice over here there's some instructions on discounts. Okay, so you can get additional discounts. These are not additive. If you buy 4 or 5, then you get 20% off the subtotal. You don't get 10% plus 20%. You just get the discount that's listed under each category. So for instance, I'll show you how that works. If you wanted to include the trailing stops and targets package along with this, then you would check that box, and your discount is automatically computed and deducted and reflected in the grand total. And once you're ready to complete your purchase request, then you check this box. Until this box is checked, you will not be able to submit the form. And checking this box means that you agree to our privacy policy and terms and conditions. So you check this box, and then the submit button appears down here at the bottom and will allow you to submit the form. Okay, so let's take a look at our topics list for the video. Right now, we've got installation and setup. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. I understand that most people using Thinkorswim are using it on a Windows environment, so I will go ahead and demonstrate the installation and setup from a Windows machine and go ahead and walk you through each step. So the first step is you receive an email from me, and it's going to include a zip folder, a compressed folder. And if your email client does not accept zip folders, then we'll have to send you a link and you'll have to download it. But this is how most people will receive the file. It's just a file attached to the email, and all you do is you click the download button. Now this is Yahoo Mail. You may have a different email client and they may have a different method for downloading files from your email, and you may have an antivirus protection that may limit or restrict your access to such files. You'll have to work out those details on your own. For now, I'll just go ahead and click the download button, and you'll notice that it shows up immediately in our downloads folder. You see this over here? So right here I've got the folder for the downloads. This is the default location for files that you download from the internet, and this is a compressed folder. So your files are located within here, and they cannot be imported into Thinkorswim while they are still in this compressed folder. So we're going to copy them and paste them into the downloads folder, and I'll show you. It's really simple. I'm going to double click this folder right here, and then I'm going to select the files. Those are all the files, but they're in a compressed state right now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy, and then I'm going to hit the back button, and then I'm going to click anywhere in this empty space here. I'm going to right click and select paste. It's just that little button up there. Not much of a description, but there it is. Now let's go ahead and review these files. You have several different file types. You have a study file and you have a strategy file. And notice that your computer thinks it's an MPEG-2 TS video, which is totally wrong. The only reason it shows that is because the computer doesn't know what type of file these are, and that's because Thinkorswim fails to register the file types that are used for its platform with the operating system. It's just a simple little thing. They could fix it in a heartbeat. Not a big deal, but we can move on without that. Also notice that we've got a couple of other files down here. These are text files. So let me explain the nomenclature here, okay? Hahn-Tech, HT, okay, that's what the HT stands for. And so you have Hahn-Tech and then a lowercase letter following the HT. For lowercase a, this is a chart study, all right? It stands for analysis, A for analysis. The B that you see here stands for backtesting. That's how I differentiate the files between study type and strategy type. And then over here, these plain text files, where you see the HTS, S stands for scan, so that is your scan. And then where you see the HTW, those are your custom watch list columns. So you can see that this particular package includes a chart study, a chart strategy for backtesting, as well as a scan and 2 custom watch list columns. Now I'm going to show you step by step how to import these files and get them set up on your Thinkorswim application. I've got Thinkorswim open here in the background. I'm just going to move this off to the side just a little bit because I do want you to see how these files that were downloaded from your email and extracted into your downloads folder get imported into Thinkorswim. I want you to see how everything's connected together. This is really important. So I'll go ahead and load any old ticker symbol in here so we can access the Edit Studies button. And here's the Edit Studies window. Now we have 2 different types of files that we can import into Thinkorswim: studies and strategies. So it's very important that you select the correct tab before clicking the import button. So we are on the studies tab, and I'll click the import button. And now we need to navigate to the downloads folder. Right now it defaults to the documents folder. So we need to go up 1 level. I'm going to click this button right here. You can see now we're in the user profile directory, and those are all the folders that are available, and downloads is one of them. So you double click downloads, and now you are looking at the same content that's over here on the left. But you only see the study file because we selected this while the studies tab was active. So we only have this one file that we can import at this point. And you'll go ahead and click the open button, and that will import it into Thinkorswim. I'm going to press the cancel button because this file already exists in my Thinkorswim and there's no reason for me to overwrite that file. Now let me show you how to locate that file once it's been imported and load it onto Thinkorswim. So it starts with HTA. You just start typing out the name of the indicator, and there it is. Okay, see it on the left in the downloads folder, and you see it here in the list of studies. Okay, so I'm going to double click that to add it to the chart, and then click apply and OK. And there it is. Those are all the default settings. That's how it looks when you first install it. And when we get into the settings, I'll show you how to turn everything on and make the adjustments to the various parameters to adjust the behavior. Now I'm going to show you how to import the chart strategy. So remember I told you there's 3 tabs up here, and we need to import the strategy from the strategies tab. So I just click on the strategies tab, and then when I click import and navigate to the download folder as I did before, you will see now the chart strategy is listed. Okay, so it's not going to see both files. It's only going to see the files that are associated with the tab that you selected before pressing import. So you would go ahead and press the open button, and that would go ahead and import that into your Thinkorswim account. I'm going to press cancel because it's already loaded on mine. So let me go ahead and show you then how to load that indicator on the chart. You just start typing in the name of the indicator right here in the box. There it is. Okay, so you can see the name of the file over here on the left, And that is how it appears here in Thinkorswim. So I'm going to double click to add that to the chart, and then I'll go ahead and remove the chart study, because you don't really need both. If you've got the chart strategy loaded, you don't need the indicator, but you can use the indicator separately, but it just will not plot the theoretical buys and sells. Okay, hit apply and OK, and now we've got it loaded on the chart, and you can see that it's already plotting some of those theoretical buys and sells. Okay, that's all we needed for the chart strategy and the chart study. Now I'm going to show you how to import the custom watch list columns and the scan. And what I usually do to access a watch list is I open up the sidebar window. I leave that closed all the time because I don't use it for anything. And so when I want to use a watch list, I just go ahead and select one of these and select detach gadget. Okay, and I'll show you if you don't have a watch list gadget already loaded, then there's a plus button down at the bottom that you can include a new gadget. But you can also, if you have some other gadget up here but you don't have a watch list, you can select that menu and select switch gadget and then select watch list, and it will replace whatever gadget you have loaded in that space with a watch list. And then you can go ahead and detach it, or you can use it right here within the window just like this. It's up to you, totally your preference. And I'll go ahead and close that sidebar, and let me show you now how to add custom columns to the watch list column. We have plenty of resources on the Hahn-Tech website. If you're brand new to custom watch list columns, I encourage you to go there and look at our free tutorials. We've got lots of instruction on how to work with custom watch lists in Thinkorswim. So you right click and select customize, and I'll remove the one that's there. I don't need that. And then how do you find your custom columns? Well, your custom columns are located here. I'm going to click this button here, and then you go to custom quotes. That's where all of yours will be listed. Now yours will probably show custom 01 through custom 19 and nothing else, but I've got a lot of custom columns here that I've already loaded and created. So I'm going to go ahead and double click these two and add them to the watch list. Okay, they're going to show up right there. Okay, but first I want to go ahead and insert the code for each of these watch lists. So you click on the script icon, and that opens up the editor. And then you want to get rid of all the code that's in here. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut, Control A. It selects everything on the chart, and then I'm going to delete it. And now I'm going to go down here to the watch list file. Now there's two files, and this one here is named Swing Pivot Trend Color. So it shows the status of the trend. And so what you do is you right click on any empty space within that document and select all, and then you right click and select copy, and then you come up back here to the code editor, and then make sure you're on the Think Script editor. If you're on the condition wizard, then you're not going to be able to access the code. So make sure you're on the Think Script editor, remove everything that's already there, and then you can right click and paste. Okay, and these are just the plot statements down here. Then hit apply and OK. Then I'll do the same for column 2. Column 2 is going to be a different file. So the first thing I'll do is go ahead and remove everything that's on here. I'm going to use Control A and then backspace on my keyboard to clear everything out. So now we've got a blank canvas. Again, make sure that you're on the Think Script editor or you won't be able to perform that step. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at the files that we have open, and this is the one I want next. This is Swing Pivot Trend Count. So this is the one that shows you the number of consecutive bars in the current trend. So once again, you right click over any empty space and select all, and then you right click again and select copy. And then you come up here to the code editor and you can right click and select paste, or you can use a Control V for paste on your keyboard. And there we go. Those are the plot statements down there at the bottom of that code. So I'll press apply and OK. And now once we hit OK, those columns will be added to our watch list, and they will display the colors based on each ticker symbol relative to how it would appear on the chart. That's all you need to know for now. We're not going to review that right now. We're going to review this later when we get to the settings for custom watch list. Then we'll go ahead and show you how to interpret these colors and the number values on here, and how to use them to identify specific patterns or conditions on the chart that you might find favorable for your trading. So I'll go ahead and close this, and the next step is to show you how to do the scan. So I'm going to show you how to set up the scan. I'm going to show it to you from start to finish, and I'll go ahead and set up the screen so that everything is ready to go. There we go. We're on the scan page of Thinkorswim under Stock Hacker, and I'll go ahead and reset this to defaults to clear away the scan that was previously loaded. And all you do is select that menu and select reset, and then select yes. Make sure you save anything. If you've got anything in there that you need to save, make sure you save it first. But I didn't, because there was nothing there that I wanted to keep. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is remove all of the stock filters. There's 3 of them here that are loaded by default. We don't need any of them. And the next thing I'm going to do is add 2 filters. They're study filters. So you just click the add filter button and then click study. And we're going to do that twice because we've got 2 different scans that we want to run. They're both going to be the same exact code, but we're going to flip the signals around so that we have a combination of 2 different signals operating together on the scan. Before I go ahead and insert the code for each of these, I want to show you how I set up my top level filter. I'm going to select scan in and a category of all optionable, and then I'm going to intersect with, and then a category of all stocks, and then I'm going to exclude a category of all over-the-counter stocks. This isn't going to work for everyone, but for me, it's a handy way to reduce the number of stocks the scan has to run against to make it run more quickly, but also eliminates a lot of the stocks that most people are not interested in. Okay, so let's go ahead down here to the file that I have open for the scan, and it's just like the watch list columns. I'm going to right-click, select all, right-click, select copy. I want you to notice here we've got the scan file here, and it is the HTS Swing Pivot Trend Rotations, and this contains the code for the scan. So we'll right-click and select all, and then right-click, select copy. Then I'll come over here to the code editor, and once again, you don't want to be on the condition wizard, okay? You want to be on the ThinkScript editor. So we switch to the ThinkScript editor, and then we select all of that code right there that's in there, and then press backspace on your keyboard, and it removes it. Then I go ahead and right-click on the empty space and select paste, and now you're looking at all of the signals that are available for this scan. Now for this first one, we're going to leave it at the default, and I'll show you how to change those later when we get to the settings. Just leave it at the default. Click OK. So that's done. Now we need to do it again for this one right here. So we click the edit button and then access the code here by selecting the ThinkScript editor, and then we highlight all of that code, select everything that's on the screen, backspace to clear it all, right click and select paste, because everything that we copied previously and pasted into the other study filter is the same code that we're going to use for the second study filter. And for this one, we're going to turn off the default scan signal by placing a hash mark here. And then we're going to move down here and we're going to activate this scan signal, which allows us to scan for a range from min to max for the bar count. Remember I told you that the custom columns, does this sound familiar? Really, these 2 scans that I'm setting up are equivalent to the 2 custom watch list columns. One shows the current trend status, and the other one shows the number of bars within the current trend. So this will all make a lot more sense once we get into adjusting the settings and running the scan. That's later on in the video. For now, all I'm doing is showing you how to set things up so that you are ready to follow along. And that's it. So if you do need to save this scan, then you go ahead and select Save Scan Query, and then give it a name that is relevant to you, and then click the Save button. Unless you do that, you'll have to rebuild the scan every time you want to use it, because you'll probably replace it with something else. So you want to make sure that you understand how to do that. And if you're watching this video and you're completely lost, don't worry, I've got a solution. Just head on over to the Hahn-Tech website, go to free tutorials, go to Thinkorswim tutorials, and I'm going to open that in a new tab. See the left-hand navigation menu? You want to select scans. And then from here, you want to select Thinkorswim Scans Beginner to Advanced. This video will show you every single square inch of the scan tool on Thinkorswim. It's everything. All of it is covered. And there's a topical list so that you can jump straight to a topic of interest. But if you've never run a custom scan on Thinkorswim before, then you really do need to watch this video from start to finish. You will find it an invaluable resource for running scans on Thinkorswim. We show you how to optimize things so scans run faster. We show you how to do multiple time frames. We show you how to create alerts from your custom scans. There's a lot to this tool that people haven't even scratched the surface yet. And this is a very good video for people to watch, especially if they're not familiar with running scans on Thinkorswim. And with that, we have completed the installation and setup. So let's go ahead and look at our topics list for our video and see where we're headed next. Right now, we're going to be getting into the settings. And for the settings overview, we've got a document here that we'll go over. And don't worry, this is just a summary version. We're going to go over each and every one of these in detail during the settings review. And I'm going to show you how to adjust each of these settings and how it changes the behavior on the chart. So stay tuned. We've got a lot coming. And you might want to grab a cup of coffee. Make sure you keep your mind sharp. This section of the video is the settings overview. And right after that, we're going to get into the settings detail, where we demonstrate how the settings impact the behavior of each element. So first, we're going to go ahead and review the main features of the indicator. And right at the top here, you can see a list of files that are included in this indicator package. Those who watch the installation and setup section of the video will understand what these files mean, so let me go ahead and explain this for the benefit of those who skip that section of the video. Each of these files is prefixed with HT and then a lowercase letter. The HT stands for Hahn-Tech, and the lowercase letter tells you the type. Lowercase a in this case is analysis, so this is a chart study. And the S stands for scan, so this file is your custom scan. And these two files that have a W after the HT, those are your custom watch list columns. And then this one here that has a B on it, B stands for backtest, and this means this is a chart strategy. And now we're going to review each of these separately. We've got the chart study up first. Then we're going to cover the custom scan, which is item number 2, and then the custom watch list column. And then the last item we're going to cover is the chart strategy. So let's go ahead and review each of these. So the chart study displays 4 trend stages. You've got max bullish, min bullish, neutral, min bearish, and max bearish. And those trend stages are determined using swing pivot structures. There are major swing pivots that identify larger trend structures and minor swing pivots that identify smaller trend structures. So think of it as the trend within the trend. Since markets are fractal in nature, you've got this series of trends within trends within trends. And another way of viewing this might be looking at it as macro swing pivots versus micro swing pivots, or longer term trend versus shorter term trend. Just some synonyms to keep in mind in case you're not understanding the terminology of major swing pivot and minor swing pivot. And trend rotations are observed on the chart as trend reversals take shape. When we get into the settings and I show you the trend bars and how to interpret the different colors for the trend, you'll understand how those rotations take shape and how to identify them on the chart. For each of the swing pivot structures, you get to adjust the left and right strength. And I've got a demonstration to show you exactly how that impacts the behavior of the indicator. And I just had to make a change to the document here because section 4 under chart study actually belonged under chart strategy, so it's now number 5 under chart strategy. So if you saw something change there in the video, don't worry, I just updated the document here so that we have everything in the correct order. So the next thing we'll cover is the custom scan. For the scan, we have 2 different types of scan signals. You can scan for the status, the trend status, which was listed up here. You've got the 5 different trend stages, okay, so you can scan for each one of those individually. And then you can scan for the trend bar count. So this is consecutive bars for the current trend. And when we get to the custom scan, you're going to see an example of combining both of those signals together on the same scan. During the installation and setup section of the video, we showed you how to set up the scan in that fashion. Then you have the custom watch list columns. There are 2, and they correspond with the custom scans. The first one here shows you the trend status color. So it's basically the same thing as the scan, except it shows you the color of the current trend for each of the tickers in your watch list. Then the other custom column is a trend status bar count. So it tells you the number of consecutive bars in the current trend. So the custom scans and the custom watch list columns are intentionally designed to fit together hand in glove. Then we have the chart strategy. Okay, so the chart strategy includes everything in the chart study plus all of the following. It plots theoretical buys and sells on the chart, otherwise known as strategy orders. Again, I will remind you that strategy orders are used for backtesting and optimizing your trade setups. Thinkorswim does not allow backtesting chart strategies to be used to automatically place live trades on your account. You'll have to place all of your trades manually, but when we get to the final section of the video, you will see how to place your orders as a chart unfolds on a simulated live environment. And the strategy orders include 4 different entry types. You've got major bullish long entry, major bearish short entry. You've got both, in which you can combine each of these on the same chart. And then you've got the minor bullish long entry and the minor bearish short entry. Those are only available individually. You cannot combine both of these at the same time. Okay, so item number 3 only applies to 1 and 2. Items 4 and 5 are independent. The chart strategy also gives you the opportunity to filter out signals when prices are overbought or oversold. And you get to select whether you want to use the RSI or the stochastic. And if you select stochastic, you also get to choose between the full D and the full K plots from the stochastic. And you also get to adjust the overbought, oversold levels. You do not need to plot the lower study in order for these filters to be active. All you need to do is turn them on in the settings, and I'll demonstrate that when we get to the charts. Then we have strategy order exit types. So this is a completely self-contained chart strategy. You do not need to use a separate chart strategy to handle the exits, although you certainly may include one of the built-in exit strategies that are included with Thinkorswim, or you may purchase our package from the Hahn-Tech website, which has multiple different tools available for handling exits on chart strategies. Let's just take a quick look at that before we move on to the rest of this. So we'll go over here to the swing pivot trend rotations, which is the subject of this video right there, okay? And if you scroll down here, a separate package, okay? This is available separately for an additional fee, trailing stops and targets. There are 5 separate chart strategies included here: stops and target exits, trailing parabolic long exit, trailing parabolic short exit, as well as trailing ATR long exit and trailing ATR short exit. I won't go into much more detail than that. You can go ahead and click on these screenshots here and view them at your leisure, and then view the demo video if you would like to learn more about these. Okay, so for the strategy order exits, we have changes from bullish to minor bearish trend, changes from bearish to minor bullish trend, or changes from any bullish trend to any bearish trend, or changes from any bearish trend to any bullish trend. Okay, so that might not make a whole lot of sense to you, but trust me, once we get into the settings and we show you how to adjust these settings, it'll all make sense. You'll see it on the chart, and I'll explain it all, and they're perfectly labeled too on the chart so that you can see them and understand which signals are being applied. And this chart strategy also includes some features for intraday time frame. When you set your chart to an intraday time frame, you get to adjust the trading hours start and end time, and you may turn that on or off. And the trading hours start and end time allows you to backtest a scenario in which you would be closing out your positions before the regular session ends, right? So some people can't hold a position overnight in their accounts. Some people have to hold a position in their accounts overnight, right? Depending on what your account equity is, depending on what you're trading. And so we've included a feature in the chart strategy for backtesting that allows you to test it for closing the positions before the end of the trading session, or allowing the positions to be held overnight. And the trading hours start and end time themselves control new entries. So during that span of time that you define with the settings, start time and end time, entries are only allowed during those times if you turn that setting on. And then for trade size, you have the option to select shares or equity. If you select shares, then whatever quantity you enter is going to be the number of shares that are traded. If you select equity, then you will also enter your account equity and the percent of equity that you want to apply for each trade. And what this strategy will do then is it will compute the amount of available equity and then adjust the share size for each entry accordingly. And we've completed the brief overview, and now it's time to get into the charts. And now we're going to move on to the detailed review of the settings. We're going to take each setting one by one and demonstrate them on the chart. And when we get to the settings that are applicable to both the watch list and the custom scans, then we'll go ahead and include instructions on how to adjust the settings on those as well. Let's go ahead and begin our review here of the chart settings. And specifically, I want to point out that all of these settings that you see here are for the chart strategy. Okay, they don't apply to the study itself, they don't apply to the watch list columns, and they don't apply to the scan. So we're going to begin our step-by-step review of the settings by examining the chart strategy. And these are all the settings that impact the behavior of the signals that are presented on the chart, and therefore also impact the profit and loss graph that you see on the bottom. Now just scroll down here a little bit so that you can see the last and final setting that is included for the chart strategy only. So that one right there at the bottom, intraday flat time, that is the last setting in the list that's for the chart strategy. Everything below that is going to be for the chart study as well as the chart strategy. So all of these settings are common to both the chart strategy and the study. However, when we get to the custom watch list columns and the custom scan, this group of inputs right here, those are solely for aesthetic purposes. They don't really impact the performance or the signals or the trend status. And so those settings right there are not included in the custom watch list column or the scan. So you can see we've got very few settings to cover for the custom watch list column and the scans, and we're just going to walk through these one step at a time. I just wanted you to understand how these settings are grouped for each individual application. Let me go ahead and move this over so we can see some of these orders. You notice that all of these entry orders here, where you see the LE, that's long entry, you see they have a value of 100, that's 100 shares. This first setting then is trade size type is set to shares, and trade shares is set to 100. If we want to adjust that to 50 and see the impact, then we go ahead and click apply, and you can see that all of those 100 values turn to 50. So that is how that setting is impacting the number of shares that the chart strategy is recording for each trade. I'll go ahead and set that back to default. And then the other option you have here for trade size type is equity. Once you select it to equity, then trade shares is completely ignored. That value is not used. What happens is that these next two settings are. Okay, so you have the account equity, the default value is 10,000, percent of equity is 10%, and so that gives you about $1,000. And when you have this trade size type set to equity, then what the strategy is going to do is it's going to compute the amount of equity available and then try to buy as many shares or sell, in this case it may be a short, that fit within that $1,000 limit. So let's see what happens when we turn this setting on and click apply. Notice that all those values changed to 7. So now instead of 50 shares at a time, it's doing 7. And even the short side is a minus 7. If we move this over to the side here, we can see some of these values are 6. So the higher the price, the fewer shares the strategy is able to buy. So it buys fewer shares because it only has $1,000 to work with given the settings that we have provided. Pretty simple, right? So let's go ahead and change that back to shares, and then we're going to be looking at the trade direction. Right now it's set to both, and we've got 5 different selections here. We can change it to major long, major short, both, minor long, minor short. Now when it's set to both, it's actually doing both the major long and the major short at the same time. Okay, it's excluding the minor long and minor short. So let's just go ahead and look at the chart knowing that we have this trade direction set to both. And let's zoom in here a little bit so we can see things a little bit more clearly. Now you can see everywhere that there's an entry, you see this major LE, and then up here a short entry, major SE, okay? And that is how those signals are plotted on the chart, because we have it set to display those. Now let's go ahead and change this, and for instance let's change it to a long only, and I'll go ahead and leave part of that chart in view so that you can see the effect. I'm going to change the trade direction from both to major long. So what we should expect to see is that the short entries will disappear from the chart, which they do. And you can see that for this particular section of chart and this particular ticker symbol, eliminating the short entries did some terrible things to the profit and loss graph. But that's what this is all about. You get to back test, you get to try different settings to understand which ones are going to work best for you. And I'm just showing you how the settings are impacting the behavior. So now we're going to change the trade direction from major long to major short. So we'll hit OK, and then it's going to show you only the short entries. Now let's take a look at some of the other ones, right? We've got 2 more here. We got minor long, minor short. And remember, those are totally independent of one another. There's no way using the settings to have them both applied at the same time. So we'll go ahead and turn on the minor long. and we'll hit OK and then apply, and then we'll take a look at some of those signals on the chart. So I think what I should do though is turn on the trend legend. We'll come back and review that again when we get to that section of the video, but it's down here around the look and feel section here. It's display trend legend, yes or no. We'll go ahead and turn that on. Once you get used to the colors, they should be pretty easy to remember. So min bullish and min bearish. The cyan is the min bullish. So notice under this setting, you have minor long entry here, and then you have a minor long entry here, and it's entering right at the change from this red bar to a cyan. So that's a min bullish entry. And then over here, you have it going from yellow to cyan, and that is also a minor long entry. And when you activate the minor long entry and short entry, what you end up with for exits is any long exit. You see this any long exit, any LX right here? What that does is anytime the trend changes from any bullish to any bearish, it automatically plots an exit on the chart. Now let's go ahead and flip that over to the short side. So we've got minor long currently selected. So let's go ahead and turn on minor short and examine the chart. And you can see right here, that's what happens when you get to the min bearish. You see those magenta bars. Anywhere that you see a first magenta bar after a series of any other color, that's when these minor short entries are being placed on the chart. And then again, for your exits, you have any short exit is listed here. And that means that anytime the trend changes from any bearish stage to any bullish stage, going from bearish to bullish, it's going to post an exit to take you out of that short position for backtesting. All right, let's change that back to both so that we've got long and short directions both. I want to put that back to the way it was. And now we've got the disallow, overbought, oversold, and then we've got the overbought, oversold type, and then the if stochastic then, and then the overbought level and oversold level. This group of settings right here all impact one another. So they all fit together and they're all included in how the overbought, oversold is used to filter out signals. So let me go ahead and set up the chart. I need to put on an RSI to start with, and then we'll turn on the overbought, oversold, and then show you exactly how it impacts the signals on the chart. Okay, I think I've got the chart set up well enough to demonstrate this next setting. So let's go ahead and open up those settings. I've got the RSI loaded on the bottom of the chart and it's set to default settings. And I want to go ahead and explain how this setting works. Right here you've got an entry point, and what the code is going to do is it's going to examine the RSI. Is it overbought or is it oversold at this point? If it's a long entry, then it's going to be checking to see if it's overbought. If it's a short entry, like over here, it's going to be checking the RSI to see if it is oversold. And if we turn this setting on and it finds an entry in which the RSI is overbought or oversold, it will go ahead and disallow that signal on the chart. I got my crosshairs right here on this bar right here because I'm going to use the settings to force this candle right here to be overbought. Right now, the RSI is at a 69.96. It's just a smidge below the 70, which is the default overbought line. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the RSI so that you can see the effect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the RSI overbought to 65 and oversold to 35. So I'm going to tighten up the overbought oversold range for the RSI. And again, we should only see the change take place on the bottom of the screen, not on the signals yet, because we have not turned that on for the chart strategy. Now let's go ahead and examine some of these signals. Do we have an oversold condition here? Yes, we do. So we expect that signal to disappear. Do we have an oversold condition here? Yes, we do. So we expect that signal to disappear. This is a long entry. We do not have an overbought, so that long entry is going to remain. And then this one here is a short entry, and it is oversold, so that is going to be removed from the chart. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and mark each of these with the vertical line, and then show you how the changes take place when we adjust that setting. Okay, all I've done is I've placed some vertical lines here at each of these entries that I believe will disappear from the chart, and so we basically have two signals that we expect to remain after we make these changes. So let's go ahead and turn that setting on and make the adjustments. So disallow overbought oversold, we're going to change that to yes. It is set to RSI by default, and when it's set to RSI, the next setting is ignored. And then we're going to update the overbought oversold levels. Hope you guys didn't forget about those. That's the first setting that I changed on the RSI. So we'll go ahead and click OK and then apply, and then let's take a look at the chart. And sure enough, all of the signals that I marked have been removed, and the signals that I did not mark remain. And let's go ahead again and review. You see this signal right here, the long entry. The RSI is not overbought, so that signal is allowed. Another long entry here, RSI is not overbought, so that signal is allowed. And again here, long entry, it's not overbought, so it's allowed. And then here we have the short entry, and again, it's looking to see if this is oversold, and it's not. And what's the concept behind this? I know somebody's probably wondering, why did I include this feature? So if you're trying to enter in the direction of the expected trend, then the idea is that you might not want to enter while the RSI is overbought, because while it's overbought, chances are it's about ready to start to roll over. You see this little section right here where it's overbought for quite some time, and then price rolls right on over. And so same thing here. You see how it goes into the overbought section here, and then it rolls right on over. So same thing here. So that's the basic concept. The overbought oversold filter is designed to help remove signals that would be buying into a potential reversal. And so to summarize, what this setting does is it attempts to backtest a scenario in which you don't want to buy as the market is reaching a potential top, and you don't want to sell as the market is potentially reaching a bottom. The setting is there. You can turn it on and adjust the settings as you like and see how it works. Now we've done something a little bit artificial here by adjusting the overbought oversold levels on the RSI, but that is just one way to show you how this works. You can also adjust the length of the RSI, and that would also impact the filter as well. And so now let's examine how this operates using the stochastic. And I've set up the chart here with the stochastic full on the bottom, and let's go ahead and examine the chart. I've gone ahead and moved all of these lines to those signals that I believe will be taken off once we apply the filter. And notice here for the short entry, the full K, which is the yellow line here on the stochastic full, is below the oversold line, and so we expect that signal to be removed when we turn this filter on. This short signal, however, the full K is not oversold, and so this one should remain. And this one here, it looks like I forgot to mark this one because that is overbought at that point. So let's mark that one. Good. Glad I took a time to review these. And then the short entry here is going to be removed because it's oversold. This long entry is going to be removed because it's overbought. This long entry is going to remain because it is not overbought. And then this short entry is also going to be removed because it is oversold. So let me go ahead and mark that one too. Let's go ahead and update the setting here. Go ahead and turn this on, number one. And then so now overbought oversold, the filter is turned on. And then the overbought oversold type, I'm going to select stochastic. I'm going to adjust it to full K because that is how I reviewed the chart. We'll check out the full D version of that next. So let's go ahead, hit apply, and check out the result. And sure enough, everything that I've marked is gone, and the ones that are remaining are the ones that are not overbought or oversold. And I don't know if anybody caught that, but I did forget to update this setting right here. Overbought and oversold is different for the stochastics. We click OK and apply and OK, and that is a little bit more in line with what we had expected. I'd already moved those lines from the chart, but you can see here that this one in particular is not overbought, so it remained. This one over here is not overbought, so it remained. And you can check each of these signals that are presented on the chart, and none of them are violating the overbought oversold filter. So let's go ahead and examine now the full D version of the stochastic filter. And I actually had to thumb through a few different charts to find a ticker symbol that gave us an example that we could use. And so I've got these two lines drawn here on the two signals that are overbought or oversold. Notice this time we're looking at the magenta colored line of the stochastic full. That is the full D, and that is the filter we're going to test next. And so you can see that that magenta colored line is above the overbought level right here at this entry point, and it is below the oversold level right here at this short entry point. And both of those trades were losses, and that's probably going to clean things up quite a bit here, but we don't know what's on the left of the chart. Let's go ahead and turn that setting on and review the changes. So here I'm going to go ahead and turn on the disallow overbought oversold. I'm going to leave this set to stochastic, and I'm going to change this from full K to full D. Click OK and apply. And yes, indeed, the P&L graph improved tremendously on that. And you can see that these two signals that I marked over here have vanished from the chart. So that's how the filter works for the overbought oversold. And you understand that now you can change the overbought oversold levels as well as select from the various elements. You can choose RSI or stochastic, and if you choose stochastic, you can select between the full K or the full D. And don't forget about these overbought oversold levels, very important. And then if you need to adjust the settings themselves for the stochastic and the RSI, those are located right here. You've got the K period, the D period, the slowing period. Oh, and don't forget this moving average type for the stochastic, and then for the RSI you can adjust the length and the price and the moving average type. So we just blew through all of those settings in one short section of the video, because next we're going to be looking at the trading hours. And for that, we're going to be probably moving down to a 15-minute chart, maybe a 5-minute chart. I'm going to look for some examples, set things up for you. So stay tuned. I'm going to update the charts and then come right back to you. I've selected the 5-minute time frame. You can see several days worth of trades here. I'm going to pick on this last session right here. It has two entries. You can see one entry was at 10:40 a.m. and the other one was at 13:20 p.m. Eastern. And then you have the timeout exit. And so I'll go ahead and zoom in on this section of the chart right here so that we have a really clear view of these signals. Now the trading hour start times, the default values are from 10 a.m. to 1500. We could simply draw a box around this if you want to see that a little bit more clearly. We can draw a box from here over to here. Okay, so that is the trading hours. The trading hours start and end times control new entries. It does not have any impact whatsoever on exits. So if you turn on the filter for trading hours, then you'll have these two signals will still show up because they're within the allowed time using the default values. And the timeout exit will also still be on the chart because that is not impacted whatsoever by the trading start and end times. The timeout exit performs its task completely independently of whatever you have set for the trading hours. And you know what I decided? I'm going to go ahead and move this over just a little bit so I've got room to put the settings view over here on the left and not obscure the signals that we're focusing on here on the chart. I think that's a better layout for us. And so let's go ahead and check out our settings. Okay, apply trading hours is set to no by default, and again the 10 a.m. and 1500 a.m. those are the default start and end times, and so we can go ahead and turn that on by selecting yes, and then if we hit apply, we don't expect any changes on the chart. So now let's see what happens if we make some changes to the start time. Remember that this signal right here is 10:45. So let's say we adjust the trading start time to 11 a.m., which would be this bar right here, 3 or 4 bars after that entry signal. All right, so all I'm going to do is select the intraday trading start and type in 1100, and then I'll hit OK and then apply and watch what happens to that signal on the chart. Okay, that signal is no longer there. The other signal is still present because it is still within the allowed time span. I'll go ahead and update our rectangle here to show the current settings for the start and end time. So this shaded box shows you the allowed trading entries based upon the current settings. And let's take a note of this particular entry right here. It's at 1320. And now we're going to focus on the intraday trading end. So the default is 1500. If we change that to 1300 hours, then the trading end time is going to be before this entry that you see on the chart here. So let me go ahead and hit OK and then hit apply, and indeed that signal does disappear. And then let me go ahead and update the drawing so that you can see the effect of those settings. 1300. This is what we've got now. Let me go ahead and open up those settings again so you can see. There we have it. Intraday trading start 1100 hours, intraday trading end 1300 hours. That is the span occupied by that shaded box, and that's why we don't have any more signals plotted for this period. And notice that the timeout exit also disappeared from the chart because we don't have any open positions during this session. I'll go ahead and set these back to default values, and hit apply to bring those back up on the chart. I think I can delete that rectangle. We no longer need that. And now let's examine this timeout LX. So the timeout LX, notice that that is posted on a bar that's marked as 1545. I'll show you where that setting is located. Okay, it's right below the intraday trading end. So the intraday flat time, that is the time that the strategy will post an exit and flatten all positions for backtesting when there is a valid value inserted here. Okay, you turn it off by changing it to 0. Watch, we can turn that off by changing it to 0. Now I'll hit apply, and now that position is still open. That minor long entry that was taken, that position is still open. It was not closed before the end of the trading session. And in fact, we can go ahead and look at some other signals on the chart, and we can see examples of trades that were held overnight. For instance, this trade was taken on 11/16 and it was closed out on 11/17. And there was another one over here. Let's take a look at that. This trade was opened on 11/8 and the strategy closed it on 11/9. So with this setting turned off, the positions are held overnight, and so this is where you would be backtesting a scenario in which you want to hold positions overnight. If you don't want to hold positions overnight, then you turn that setting back on and you set it to whatever time it is that you want your trades to be closed out before the end of the trading session. Let's go ahead and experiment by turning that back on. I'll set it to the default value of 1545, and you can see it shows up back on the chart. And let's adjust that value and see its impact on the trade. Let's say we wanted to close that out at 1555. That's the very last bar of a 5-minute chart. So when you're adjusting this setting, keep in mind what time frame you have set on your chart. Let's say we want to change it to close at 1530. And so now you can see that the timeout is occurring at 1530. Okay, I set that back to default values and turn that setting back on and reset the chart. And that's it. That's all I needed to show you about those settings for allowed trading hours and the timeout exit. So now we get to move on to the next batch of settings, which is where we get to look at how the left and right strength impact the swing pivot structures that are identified by the code and used for the trend, and therefore will also impact the trading signals and the performance of the trading system. In the previous section of the video, we covered all of the settings related solely to the chart strategy. In this section, we are going to begin focusing on settings that are common to both. And in particular, the settings that we're looking at now, the left and right strength of the swing pivot structures, those settings are also found on the custom scans and the custom watch list columns. This is a very important concept for you to understand, so please pay very close attention to this section of the video, and if there's any part of this section of the video that you don't understand, go back and watch it again before you move on with the rest of the settings. These settings are the ones that have the greatest impact on the performance of this indicator. These settings are the ones that determine the quality and size of the swing pivot structures that the code identifies. And I've prepared a couple of charts to help explain this and demonstrate it so that you understand how the settings are impacting the structures that the code is identifying. We have two charts. The one on the left is set to weekly, the one on the right is set to daily. So I'm using a higher time frame on the left, a lower time frame on the right. And on the left-hand chart, I'll go ahead and zoom in on that specific section of the chart that is covered by the daily. As I move my mouse cursor across the screen, you can see how things line up. Okay, so you can see how things are lining up there. Watch carefully as I move that mouse cursor across both screens. You see how those lines are lining up. Okay, good. Now what I've done to achieve this is I've modified the code. I've added a couple of diagnostic plots to help demonstrate where it's identifying the swing highs and the swing lows for the major swing structures. I also have another plot that I can turn on for the minor swing structures. The major swing structures are identified here by these green dots followed by a square followed by a straight line, and the major swing lows are identified by a series of red dots with a square and then a dark red line. So let me explain. These dots are showing that the swing pivot structure is in the process of forming. It is not complete until the square appears on the chart, and once the bar on which the square is placed closes, then that pattern is locked in. So when that line changes from dots to square and then changes to a solid line. Okay? From the point of the solid line forward, that's where the structure is locked in place and is no longer subject to change. If at any point during this period where you have these 4 dots right here in the square, if at any point in time the price comes back up and trades above that high, that swing structure is completely canceled out. Very important that you understand that. And so the same thing applies to both major swing structures as well as the minor swing structures. So now let's focus our attention on the chart on the right. I'm going to go ahead and open up the settings here so you can see I've adjusted these settings and changed them from their default values. The default values here are 8 and 4, and I've changed them to 20 and 16. I'm going to change those back to the default values, and then when I click apply, I want you to see how everything changes on the right hand side of the chart. And again, I'll move the mouse cursor from left to right, and you watch the mouse cursor on both charts. Okay, so I'm going to do this slowly, and I'm going to stop at each point along the way. Do you see the change? You focus on that white solid line. The white solid line is the one that is tracing out the major swing highs and lows. And so you can see now that I've adjusted those settings, how a smaller swing pivot structure is identified between this space right here. You notice that is not showing up on the left-hand chart. And notice again over here, you've got another smaller swing high over here. And so you can see that when you use lower values for the swing pivot structures, the left and right strength, then it identifies smaller structures. Larger values, it identifies larger structures. So think about it as 2 time frames. Okay? If you increase the values of the left and right strength, it's almost like going up to a higher time frame without having all of the overhead and the complications involved with a higher time frame, because we can't do scans for higher time frames. So it creates a problem. So let me go ahead and put those settings back to the way they were. So now I want to introduce you to the concept of this compromise we have between the quality of the structure, the quality of the signal, versus the time lag that it introduces. You see the structure right here. It looks fantastic. Boy, you look at that and you say, boy, if I could just take a trade up here and ride that all the way down. No, this structure doesn't exist until this bar right here. You see? That section of the chart is where this structure is finally locked in. So there's a time lag. And the higher value you use for the right side strength, the longer the lag. So you see this right here. The default value for the right side strength is 4. Let's go ahead and look at those settings. On this chart right here, let's go ahead and open up these settings and take a look. All right, you see the major right side strength is set to 4. That represents the 4 dots. The square is the 5th bar. That is the one that locks in that pattern. So if you increase this value, let's just go ahead and increase it to 6, and I'll show you how that works. We'll hit apply and OK. Now look at that. Now we've got another 2 bars before this pattern is locked in. Okay, so that introduces a better quality signal because it's a larger structure, but then you also incur an additional time lag. It slows down the process. It gives you less opportunity to take advantage of the pattern that's being acknowledged by the code. So a lower value on the right side is preferred and a larger value on the left side. I'll set that back to default. So look at this. See, the left side strength is 8. We want that to be as large as we really want it to be because that doesn't introduce any lag whatsoever. It's in the past. It's 8 bars in the past. It doesn't introduce a lag. The right side strength is the one that introduces the lag, and that's the one we want to keep to the bare minimum. We want it large enough to give us a good quality signal, but we want to make sure it's small enough that we don't introduce a large lag in the time that we have to take action on the structure. And that is the principle behind the minor swing pivots. The minor left strength is default value of 3, and the minor right strength is a default value of 1. So for a minor swing pivot, you only have 1 bar of lag introduced by the structure. But if you increase those values, you're going to get better quality structures, but you're also going to introduce more lag. And by all means, you want to make sure that there are significant differences between the left and right strengths of the major swing pivot versus the minor swing pivot. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that you would never want to have the minor swing length larger than the major swing length. So whatever values you have set for the major, you need to make sure that the minor are set lower. Now, I highly recommend that you not adjust these settings unless you thoroughly understand this section of the video and all of these concepts that I'm explaining. If this is in any way confusing to you and you're completely lost, don't touch these settings. Just leave them as is. Change the other settings and use the other settings to help optimize your parameters and identify the most profitable trading setups for your particular style of trading and risk-reward tolerance. Now let me show you another concept here. Okay, so we return that back to its default values. When I click OK and apply, you can see we're back to the way it was, right? So we got 4 dots here and a square. So this structure here is complete at this section. Now, let's go ahead and turn on those dots for the right side chart. And we're going to come back and review these settings. But first, I want to make sure we fully explain the left and right strength for these pivot structures. So it's just show trend levels. I'm turning that on, apply. And now look at this, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this section of the chart right here so that you can see what happens. You see that white line? It's identifying pretty much the same structure as the higher time frame, right? So this is pretty much matching what you see on the weekly chart, right? And this is a daily chart, right? But what happens here is we have a shorter lag time. We have fewer bars of lag introduced, and we have nearly the same quality of signal. So we don't really need to have multiple time frames with an indicator like this. And again, because of complications due to scans and other items, it's really undesirable to have a multi-time frame. I've actually tried to do this with a multi-time frame, and it's a nightmare. But I did want you to understand how adjusting these settings are going to change the quality of the signals. And with a better quality signal, you're going to have a greater lag. So it's a compromise, okay? And that's why we have major swing pivots, okay, to give us the really good quality structures that we want to identify. But we also have the smaller swing pivot structures. We call them the minor swing pivots, so that we can act sooner on the changes in the direction of the trend and the breakouts between support and resistance. And that's really all I had to explain. I think that is enough information for now. I know it's probably overwhelming, but before we move on, I did want to show you what happens if we change this minor left strength. I'm going to increase that to 5. I'm going to increase the minor right strength to 2. Okay, so I'm increasing the quality of the minor swing pivots just ever so slightly. And we're introducing another bar of lag in the indicator because we've increased the minor right strength from 1 to 2. So we've introduced one more additional bar of time lag. And then I want to show you on the chart here, you see the blue, you see the circles and the triangles, and then you see the magenta, okay? You see the circles and the triangles. And what I want you to do is watch what happens now that I've adjusted, because those are the minor swing pivot structures. Now I'll hit apply and watch how those change on the chart. Very subtle, but you can see an additional dot has appeared, indicating one more bar of time lag. And you saw some of those minor swing pivots have disappeared. So we've got slightly better structure, but we've introduced a little bit more of a time lag. And this is really where the rubber hits the road for this indicator. This is the core, the fundamental component of this indicator. And if you don't understand everything I'm explaining here, put this to the side for a while. Don't try to play with these settings until you can take the time to really understand and comprehend the structure that the code is identifying and understand how those settings will impact the result. And I guess by saying that, what I'm really saying is that you can probably do very well leaving these settings, left and right strength, exactly the way they are for their default values, and you have plenty of flexibility to adjust all the other settings to fine-tune things and optimize your parameters for your own backtesting purposes. But once you get really familiar with the indicator and you understand how this structure is built, then you can go ahead and start playing around with these. And that's why I've included these plots right here. These plots are here strictly for the purpose of helping you understand what the code is doing. This is not a black box. I'm going to obfuscate the code to make it difficult for someone else to reverse engineer. I'm going to make sure that people can't make unauthorized changes without going through an extreme amount of difficulty. but I don't want you to be blind to what the code is doing and how it's operating and what structures it's using to determine the trend. And with that, let me go ahead and turn on the zigzag to help you understand, and now we'll overlay that, and so you can see the zigzag, which I mentioned earlier on in the video. The zigzag was one of the indicators I saw was creating a lot of problems for people. They didn't understand how it worked, and they didn't have any way to really make use of it. And so now the blue line is overlaid with the white line, and you can see how closely they line up. So what we've got here is very close to what the zigzag is doing, but we've got it set up so that it's able to determine the trend, and more importantly, the rotations of trend from bullish to neutral to bearish. So speaking of trend, let me turn off the zigzag. I'm going to turn on the paint bars for the trend method. We're kind of jumping ahead here on the settings, aren't we? And I'll turn on the trend legend as well. You've already seen these in the previous screenshots. Then I'm going to take out the rectangle, and that should clear things up a little bit. So here you go. All right, we've got minor bullish changes to min bearish. Okay, you see that? Let's zoom in on that part of the chart right there. Okay, you see that rotation? It goes from neutral to bullish, and then from bullish back to bearish. And when does it do that? It does that as soon as it crosses below that minor swing pivot low. Okay, and then you can see here it forms another swing pivot low and another one, and then it forms another. See, what you have here is a series of lower highs and lower lows. That is what is developing the trend. And then once the bar closes below one of the major swing lows, it changes from min bearish to max bearish. You see how it changes to the red bars here. Okay, likewise on the other direction. So let's go ahead and examine this one. This one actually doesn't cross above a major swing pivot. So we actually don't get to max bullish on this particular one, but we do see the rotation. Okay, we have the max bearish down here. And you can see then as we cross above these minor swing pivot highs that it changes from max bearish to neutral, and then it changes again from neutral to min bullish, and then min bullish and min bullish again. Okay, and let's go ahead and put a little bit more time on the chart so we can examine this section right over here so I can show you the max bullish side of this. I think that's important. Good, so we'll zoom in on this right here. This is perfect. This is great. So you see we have the major swing high here, a major swing low here, and you can see this rotation, right? We go from max bullish to neutral, and then we go to min bearish right here. Okay, we form that swing pivot, that major swing pivot low, and then look at this. As soon as we form a swing high pivot in the minor and then cross above that, the trend rotates from min bearish to min bullish. And then as it continues higher, you see it forms another minor swing pivot high. And then look at this. As soon as it closes above that previous swing high, that's a major swing high pivot, then it changes from min bullish to max bullish. You can see as soon as it tries to trade below that, we get a neutral reading. And then as soon as it trades back, we get back to the max bullish. Okay, and it remains max bullish until we start forming new swing pivots in the minors. And that's when the minimum bullish and bearish conditions begin to appear. Okay, I understand that was a lot to take in, so don't feel bad if you're lost. Go grab a cup of coffee or another cup of coffee, maybe go take a walk, come back, view this section of the video again. It's really important that you understand this structure because everything that this code does is predicated on this foundation and this concept of these structures, the combination of the major swing high-low pivots and the minor high-low pivots. And if you can wrap your brain around this and understand it, then you should be able to get in and adjust these left-right strength settings and fine-tune and optimize things to your own preferences. Okay, and I want to finish up these settings here, but let's go ahead and review what they look like on a watch list. So if you go to the watch list columns and you right-click and you select Edit the Formula, you scroll down here, and that's really all we have are these left-right strengths. These moving average inputs, we don't need those. We take those out. They're there by mistake. So I'm going to make sure that they're not there when I deliver the code for those who buy it. But these are the settings that are available in the custom watch list columns, and make sure that you understand how these settings affect what appears on your chart before you attempt to change them on your watch list columns. It's important that you update these settings for your watch list columns to match whatever you have set for the chart. But please, by all means, make sure you understand how these settings impact the behavior before you start making those adjustments. And these settings are adjusted just like this. You know, you want to change it to 12, you change it to 12. You want to change it back to 8, you change it back to 8. It's as simple as that. And they're the same exact settings that you found in the chart study and the chart strategy. And also, this is the same exact settings that you'll find in the custom scan. So let's go ahead and cancel that to not accept changes, and right click, select edit formula, and this is column 2, and you'll see that column 2 also has the same exact settings. Again, the moving averages are not going to be included, and there you have it. That's the only settings that you have available for adjustment on the custom watch list columns and the custom scan. And to wrap things up, I want to show you how you can display the trend in a different manner if you want to clean up the chart a little bit. Let's say you want to be able to see those red and green candles, because that helps you to identify support and resistance and see the open and the close of each bar. So let's go ahead and check out what we have for an option there. Go ahead and scroll down here to the bottom, and that's where we're going to get into these moving average inputs. Okay, so right now display trend method is set to paint bars. You can turn it off entirely, and there it is on the chart. It turns it off, and it doesn't make any changes whatsoever. It's simply an aesthetic look and feel sort of setting. And then we can also adjust that and then change it to a moving average. Now, why do I include a moving average? That's because I understand that many people might still like to be able to see the trend bar colors, but also see the red and green candles on the chart. So I want to make sure that we make that available, and that's how it looks when it's on the chart. Now, this moving average is colored exactly the same as the paint bars, and it's using exactly the same rules. You can modify the moving average, and you can adjust its length and price and type. Okay, let's move it to a 50 simple, okay, for instance, and we'll leave it based on close. And then you hit apply, and the colors, bar for bar, the colors are exactly the same. The moving average in no way changes the way the trend colors are being computed. The trend colors are computed solely on the swing pivot structures, and no moving average or any other type of indicator is used for those colors. Okay, so you can adjust the moving average to keep it out of the way, or to make, maybe you like to use the 50 period simple moving average for something, you know, and maybe it helps you in your back testing. Like for instance, look at this signal right here that worked out really well. It crossed right up above the 50 period moving average, and maybe you'll be able to identify some useful purpose for the moving average. And perhaps at some time in the future, when we do upgrades, we'll consider people's feedback, and someone may have some useful feedback about this and ask that we add a filter for the moving average and allow people maybe even 2 moving averages. But it's up to you. You provide the feedback, and we'll continue to build this out and improve it over time, just like we've done with the divergence indicators, just like we've done with the volume profile indicator. And then everyone can benefit from the feedback that everyone provides. Oh, and I thought I was done with the settings, but just realized that I forgot to include the alerts in the chart strategy. So I went ahead and updated the code to add that. And so let's go ahead and show you how to turn those on. It's right down here just below the left and right strength. Apply alerts. The default is no, and you change that to yes, and that will turn on the alerts. Now, how do you adjust the alert settings? Let's go scroll down here to the bottom and open up the alerts section of the Edit Studies window. And scroll down, and you can see that there's 3 alerts. One is for new max bullish trend, one is for a new max bearish trend, and the other is for a new neutral trend. Notice that I skipped the min bullish and the min bearish trends. I just felt that that would be a little bit too much. You'd be getting alerts all the time. And I figured it would be most useful just to have the alerts set for the max bullish and max bearish trend statuses. So you can adjust the individual settings here, but if you want to turn them on and off, you want to do that right here through this setting, apply alerts yes or no. Now let's go ahead and hit OK and apply, and then hit OK. Now I want to thumb through a few charts here and show you how these alerts work. Notice in this case we don't have an alert triggered, but we have neutral trend, and we have 5 bars of neutral trend, and notice that we've added a new chart label to the chart. So along with these alerts, when you turn on the alerts, you also get these labels that appear in the upper left hand corner of the chart. They're going to be in addition to the legend if you have the legend turned on, but if you turn the legend off, then you're only going to see these labels that show the max bullish, max bearish, or neutral trend and the number of bars. Here we have an example of max bullish bars, and that's 23, as you can see on the chart. You got about 20 some bars right there. And that's what the alert looks like. You see that up in the upper left-hand corner? New neutral trend, and that's neutral trend bars of 1. So that's what the alerts look like. I don't need to show you examples of the other two. I think that one is sufficient so that you understand. And it's probably a good idea that you go ahead and check your application settings. You want to make sure that you have the box checked for alert is triggered, number 1. And then you also want to go to the display section on the general tab, go to display, and then you go here to show message center for X number of seconds. Okay, so you put that in however many seconds you want. Notice mine is defaulted to 10 seconds, and that's why that notice that you saw in the upper left hand corner persisted on the chart for 10 seconds. If you have yours turned off, said do not show, then it won't show up, and you'll have to look at it in the messages section. Let's show you where that's located. So make sure you check those two sections under notifications and general, and then you want to also go ahead and view all of your messages that have been generated right here. This is the one that has been generated most recently. You can sort that by time. I prefer to have mine always show the most recent ones at the top. So that's where you can view your alert messages in case you missed it. Okay. And at this point, I realize we have completed the review of all of the settings for the chart strategy and the chart study and the custom watch list columns and the custom scan. And now we're ready to move on to the next section of the video. So here it is. We've covered the settings for each of these tools right here. Okay. And now we're going to actually run a custom scan. So I'm going to set up a custom scan just like we did for the installation and setup. It's a similar scan just like it was set up for our screenshots that I prepared for our website. And we're going to run some scan and look at some charts from the results list and help you understand how the watch list columns show you information about what's on the chart, so you can make better use of those watch list columns. And then we want to show you some example charts. And what are we going to do there? We're going to show you some tick charts, range bar charts, maybe Hahn-Tech, make some comments about their suitability for backtesting, and then also plot some various ticker symbols. We're going to cover Forex and futures and some other things. And then we're going to get into the live demo, which is a very important section of the video because it helps you to understand how to manually place your trades while you're watching the chart unfold. With the chart strategy plotting the theoretical buys and sells, you'll have to manually place those orders yourself, but it's important that you understand how to manage those orders, what type of orders to use, and how to manage them so that you mimic the way the chart strategy is marking them on the chart. In this section of the video, we're going to show you how to run the custom scan. I've got the custom scan behind me, but we need to set things up, so I'm going to walk you through that step by step. This is a scan from a previous video that I recorded, and I'll go ahead and show you how to reset everything to its default values. You just click on that menu right there and you select reset, and then you select yes. If you had a custom scan there that you needed to save, make sure you save it so that you don't lose your information. And once you're sure that you've saved the information that you need, then you go ahead and reset it, and it's going to look just like this. This is a great starting point so everyone is able to follow along exactly step by step. First thing we'll do is remove these stock filters. I don't need them for this particular example. And then we're going to add 2 study filters. Okay, notice there's several different filter options. I'm going to pick the study filter. I'm going to add 2 of those to the scan. Why 2? Well, we're going to use the same exact code for each, but there's different signals available in the custom scan code. And so I'll show you how to set up each of those signals, but first let's go ahead and finish setting up the scan itself. So I'm going to apply a top level filter. I'm going to select a category of all optionable for scan in, and then intersect with, I'm going to select a category of all stocks, and then for exclude, I'm going to select a category of all over the counter stocks. That's just a basic setup that I use for custom scans because it helps to eliminate a lot of the stocks that are not interesting or not widely traded, and it also keeps the scan from churning through endless numbers of ticker symbols that we have no business trading whatsoever. So be sure you understand how to run a scan before you attempt to do so. If you've never run a scan before, by all means, please go to the Hahn-Tech website where we have a video that will help you learn how to run custom scans. And from anywhere on the Hahn-Tech website, you simply go to free tutorials and then you select Thinkorswim tutorials. When that page opens, you go ahead and select Scans. And from the left-hand menu right here at the very top, Thinkorswim Scans Beginner to Advanced. If you've never run a scan before, you really need to watch the entire video from start to finish. And even if you have lots of experience running custom scans, there's probably a lot of stuff that scans can do that you don't even know about. You've probably only barely scratched the surface of custom scans. So take a look at the topics list. It will allow you to jump straight to areas of particular interest and save you some time if you just want to brush up on a few topics and understand how to run scans more efficiently, more effectively, and cut down on the amount of time it takes to run scans. Those are some very important things. Also, you can learn how to create dynamic alerts. So if you have a custom watch list and you want to have signals generated and sent to your cell phone or email every time one of your stocks triggers one of your alerts, this video will show you how to set up dynamic alerts so that you understand how to make that work. And also you can set up dynamic watch lists as well. So the contents of a scan can be used to populate a custom watch list. Once you learn how all these pieces fit together, it's going to really save you a lot of time. So I encourage you, take some time to learn how to use this tool properly. All right, the other part that I want to show you is how we set up the custom watch list columns. Now we've already got these set up before from the previous section of the video in which we show you installation and setup. So I encourage you to go back and view that section of the video if you skipped it, because that will show you how to set up these custom columns. I don't need to go through and repeat that process. I just want to show you that we've added these custom columns here. Now, how would you add those custom columns to the results section of a custom scan? That's a great question. So let's go ahead and right click any column on the results list, and then we select Customize. And then from Customize, you can go ahead and organize your columns. Notice I've got two custom columns right here, and I've got a whole bunch of other columns in here too, probably stuff that I never use. Here's how you access your custom quotes. These are all of your custom columns that you have built on your system, and you can name them however you like. Again, go back to the installation and setup section of the video to learn how we applied the code for the two custom watch lists that are included with this particular indicator. And also in the installation and setup instructions, we showed you how to set up the study filters. So you take the code and you copy it out of the text document and you paste it into the study filter editor, and that's how you load your custom scan. So again, I'm going to assume that you've already viewed that section of the video. I'll go ahead and update these study filters accordingly and then come back and show you how the signals have been set for each of these two study filters. I've got that code loaded in those study filters, and just to review, let's go back to the Hahn-Tech website. I want to take you back to the screenshots that we have published for this particular indicator, the swing pivot trend rotations, in particular the fourth one here, which shows the scan. I just wanted to show you guys that we're setting this scan up to operate just like this one. So the first study filter is going to be set to the trend status, and the next one, the second one, is going to be set to the trend count. And you can see by this diagram here which of those two applies to the two different watch list columns, which is why we've added the watch list columns to the scan, because they will assist you in sorting through your results list to identify the specific patterns and conditions that you're looking for. So now I'll go ahead and show you how to set those two signals, right? So the first one is set to trend status. So let's go ahead and examine that one. And here it is right here. It's already on by default. Trend state equals 2. So right here, this is bull trend max. Okay, scan for the max bull trend. Okay, we'll go ahead and cancel that because we don't need to save any changes. And then let's go back to our screenshot here. The next one is going to be set to trend count. Okay, so I'm going to set the trend count to a range using another signal in the same section of code. Okay, so here are our scan signals for the second study filter, and I'm going to turn off the one that's loaded by default. And notice we have a little error down here that one plot should be defined. You've got several plots here that you can activate, but you can only activate one at a time. In this particular case, I'm going to activate the one at the bottom, which is going to give us the ability to scan for a range of bars. So the trend status on the first study filter is set to max bullish, and this one is going to tell us how many bars of the current trend type to return in the results list. So what we expect to see in the results list are stocks that have max bullish from between 1 and 10 consecutive bars. That's what this last signal is based on. We'll click OK to save that, and then click Scan to run the scan. So we have our scan results, and I did edit the video because that scan did take almost a minute to run. So I want you to have reasonable expectations when you run the scan. It's not going to happen as fast as you see here in the video because I'm able to edit the video. Here's our chart that we have as an example. I'll just go ahead and zoom in a little bit so we have more clarity on which bars are showing. Notice that we've got the moving averages set up here for the trend display so that we can look at how many dots, and that shows us how many consecutive bars of trend. And we're going to go ahead and thumb through a couple of these examples here. Let's take a look at AEP because that one has bullish and it's currently only one consecutive bar, so it's the first bar of a bullish trend. Notice we had an alert get triggered on that because we have our alerts activated. That's new bullish trend. I might want to turn those off for the rest of this scan demonstration, huh? And here you go, right there. It went from neutral to max bullish right there. Let's go ahead and look at one that is set up for 3 bars. So this one here, AIR. There we go, 3 bars of max bullish. So it went from several bars of neutral trend, and it went then to a max bullish, and we were in the 3rd bar of the max bullish trend. Let's look at one that's a little bit more mature. Let's look at ALC. I'm not going to look at a lot of these. I just want to hand pick a few and examine them. And so there we go. We've got several bars right there of max bullish, 7 if you look at the watch list column. And then let's look at one more before we move on. We'll look at ALE. And that one is, oh, wow, look at how that one worked out. That one worked out exceptionally well. And so the idea here is, I hope you understand what we're looking at is the first column is showing you what status, right? So they're all 2s, which is the number value for max bullish. And it allows you to sort by the trend type. So when you're using it in a watch list, you can sort by that column and you'll have all of your different trend statuses grouped together. That's the way that's designed. And then the second column is showing you the number of consecutive bars in the current trend, but it also shows the color. And so that's what you're trying to interpret there in those 2 columns. And looking at those 2 columns will help you to refine the stocks in your results list so that you don't have to look at everything in your results list. You only look at the items that are of particular interest to you. Okay, let's go ahead and flip that around to a max bearish and run a scan and take a look at those results. So let's go over here to the study filter. We only need to look at the first one because it's only the first one that tells us which is the status. The other one is merely picking up the number of consecutive bars. So all we do is we change this, we turn it off, and let's say we wanted to look at max bearish. That's right here. Okay, use this scan for bear trend max. So I'll go ahead and remove that hashtag, and that activates this particular scan signal. Notice we had 3 more signals here for min bullish, min bearish, as well as neutral. So let's go ahead and click OK to accept that and press the scan button. And we have our scan results, and as expected, the columns have turned red, and we're showing a -2 in column 1. That -2 and the red color correspond with max bearish. And then column 2, again, is showing us the consecutive bar count. For example, you can see AGL has 1 bar of max bearish, whereas ALT has 3 bars of max bearish. Let's go ahead and take a look at those on the chart. Okay, there's AGL, and just like before, it's the first bar of a new trend, max bearish, and it gives us the alert. And you can see that on the chart as well as the watch list column. And let's go ahead and take a look at ALT, which has 3 bars of max bearish. There we go. So you see it rotated from a min bearish to a max bearish. And let's take a look at one that's a little bit more mature, right? So AFIB, AFib. I wonder if that's a pharmaceutical. Yeah, it probably is. So you've got several bars there of max bearish. Okay, let's go ahead and review those scans again. Notice this is the active scan because that's the one that is not grayed out. Okay, so that's the current scan right there. Each scan signal is preceded by a comment line that explains what signal is used for that particular line. And the way you change these is you put a hash mark in front of one and you take a hash mark away from another. Now you cannot have 2 of these active at the same time. If you try to do that, you're going to get an error because scans can only have 1 plot statement. So you must make sure that you're only having 1 active at a time. And again, we have these signals right here are all related to the trend status itself. So you've got the 5 different stages of trend, and then the ones down here are related to the bar count. We have one signal here that is a fixed bar count. So if you want to just do a quick scan for all of the stocks that have just printed a brand new max bullish bar, what you would do is you would activate this signal right here on one, and on the other one you would select the max bullish. Let's make sure you understand how that works. So let me go ahead and do this, right? We'll turn this on to max bullish, okay? And this is our first study filter, right? This is the study filter that's listed first in our list, right? So we'll hit OK and accept that. And I just wanted to follow you through with this example. Remember, what we're doing is we're looking for the first bar of max bullish. So we come down here and we can turn off this one, and then we can activate this one right here. And that one is, you can say exactly how many bars of trend is currently on the chart. This is very restrictive, okay? The one down below is exactly like it, but it gives you a range, okay? This one is one single value. All of them are going to be one bar. And now we have our results list. Now, in any given scan, you're likely to run across some errors like this one right here. And if you look at that chart, you'll probably find that it's got some really bad data. It's probably got days with missing trades, or it has a very short amount of time. Maybe it's a new IPO or something like that. So don't get alarmed if you see some of these popping up, but it is very helpful to have your custom columns right here in your results list so that you can spot those, okay? You don't want to waste your time looking at that chart. And the scan can only do so much. You know, it's not a problem with the code, it's a problem with the source data. If you got bad data, you're going to get bad results, and there's nothing you can do in the code to account for that. But I hope you followed that example, is that we wanted to find stocks that had the first bar of max bullish condition, and that's what we have here. We don't even need to bother looking at the charts, do we? And that's really all I had to show you for the custom scans. Now we're going to go ahead and get into some example charts. We're going to be looking at different types of charts, different chart styles to see how these things plot given different aggregation periods and things like that. But also we're going to be looking at different ticker symbols, like we're going to be looking at some Forex and some futures and a couple of others. And for this section of the video, I decided to include two charts, one from a 5-minute time frame, one from a daily time frame. Custom watch list columns here are set to daily, so these custom watch list columns will correspond with the chart on the right, not the chart on the left. But I wanted to give you guys some exposure to different time frames, and so we're going to thumb through some of these stocks here. But first, what I want to do is show you some of the different chart types. So we'll go ahead and maximize this one. Okay, so we'll go to Style and then go to the chart type. Okay, and let's select Hahn-Tech. Okay, notice when we selected Hahn-Tech, not one single element on the chart changed except for the candles. So this is something that I need to mention each time I demonstrate the Hahn-Tech chart type. It is a chart type. It is not changing the underlying data that are used by the chart studies. In other words, the candles on a Hahn-Tech are customized. The open, high, low, close are modified from the originals. But when you apply a Hahn-Tech chart to Thinkorswim, none of the chart studies are impacted by those modified values. So just because you put Hahn-Tech bars on a chart, it does not in any way impact your chart study. The chart studies are always going to plot exactly the same as they would on a normal chart. And if you need moving average or some other indicator that is computed on the Hahn-Tech candles, that requires a custom solution in Thinkorswim. And I've built several for clients over the years. So just keep that in mind, that when you put the Hahn-Techs on there, it's not going to make one bit of difference to the chart studies that you've applied to the chart. And we can try that on a line chart. Once again, it doesn't really change anything. It's still the same underlying data. And a bar type chart. So instead of candles, we put bars on there. Again, does not change the underlying data. The indicator is going to remain just as it was. Here's something that will make a change. Let's go ahead and change this to a 1600 tick chart of Apple. And you can see that on a 1600 tick chart, it is functioning. We're plotting buys and sells. We're plotting the trend statuses. Everything appears to be working, but a word of caution. Tick charts will vary widely from one platform to another. So the first word of caution is, don't expect to be able to optimize tick charts using backtesting techniques on one platform and then carry those optimizations over to a different platform and see them work exactly the same, because tick charts vary widely from one platform to another. So that's the first word of caution. The other word of caution is, I'm really not certain that tick charts can be backtested, and you need to do the research and you need to study that very carefully before you start applying this to your trading methodology. In other words, don't spend a whole lot of time trying to backtest and optimize a tick chart unless you have confirmed for yourself that these signals are replicated in a live environment. And let's go ahead and take a look at range bar charts. So we'll change that to a range, maybe put 4 days on and make this a 50 tick range bar chart. There you go. And once again, you can see that everything appears to be plotting. You've got the trend statuses appear on the moving average exactly as you would expect. We've got signals, entries, and exits that are being plotted here on the chart. Everything appears to be working, but you got a problem with range bar charts. And let's go ahead and change this back to a candle type chart, because that is the best way to view a range bar chart. And I want you to notice two things. One is range bar charts should not be used for backtesting. Everything is predicated on the first bar. The first bar sets the stage for everything else. So maybe once you get, several dozen bars afterwards, maybe it becomes range independent. In other words, maybe it starts to balance out over time. I don't think so, because the way range bars are computed, it's all based upon the very first bar, and then the next one is built based upon it. So there's a recursive component to the formulation of range bars, and so I would not expect them to be useful for backtesting. In other words, I don't think that they can be used to backtest and optimize a strategy and then used for live trading and actually replicate what was backtested and optimized. And the other thing I'll point out is you see how this moving average doesn't start until this bar right here. That's because with range bar charts as well as tick bar charts, there's no more prefetch. Okay, Thinkorswim contains a very unique feature called prefetch, in which it automatically calculates using historical data that's not included on the chart. And so you have your moving averages are fully initialized right from the very first bar on the chart. That doesn't happen with tick charts and with range bar charts, and so that is another problem that you have with the use of these tools for backtesting strategies of any kind. Okay, I'm going to move back to a daily chart and then go ahead and minimize that, and let's go ahead and start reviewing some of these example ticker symbols so we can see how those are plotting on the regular charts. And I'll go ahead and pin that watch list right there so it doesn't accidentally fall behind our chart. Sometimes I'll click on a chart to do something and the watch list disappears, so this will prevent that from happening. Oh, and the other thing that I need to mention is that we need to make sure the link is accurate, so both of our charts are set to link number 1, so I'll set the watch list likewise, and then we'll be able to click on items on our watch list and see them appear and load on the charts. So there we go, and you can see that we've got 2 bars of neutral trend, which is what's showing here on the right-hand chart. Okay, and let's see, let's try the US dollar Japanese yen. So that's 2 bars. You can see the watch list is showing the 2 bars of neutral trend right there. And let's try the US dollar Canadian pair, and wow, look at that, we've got alerts showing up on both charts. So we definitely had the alerts triggered, and we would have been able to tell immediately by looking at the custom watch list column, because it shows 1 bar right there, and you got another one here for NEM, first bar of neutral status. Let's look at the Bitcoin futures, and we're going to look at some other futures as well as this. And again, this is a long only strategy, both applied to these, so we wouldn't expect something that's downtrending to be profitable. If you did, that would be a bonus. Let's take a look at the Japanese yen. Again, that's a downtrending instrument, so we would not expect any kind of profitability using a long only strategy. And let me go ahead and reset this watch list and look at some of the index futures. Okay, we can take a look at the E-mini S&P. We can take a look at the NASDAQ E-mini. And we can look at bonds. There's bonds for you right there. Okay. Let's take a look at gold, and let's take a look at also crude oil too. Take a look at crude oil. See that? Just a few bars of max bearish right there, just creeping in, as well as the indexes. So we got the SPX index there, and it looks like I've got 2 charts open to daily with this indicator and the alerts applied. So that's why we're getting double alerts. And let's look at the NASDAQ index as well. There we go. Yep, 3 bars of neutral status. That's all I've really got to show you for the example charts. And now we're going to move on to the live demo, which is the final section of the video. Here's where we're going to show you, for example, this particular signal. I'm going to show you how this order is managed how you go ahead and place that order as the chart is unfolding, and then also the exit. So we're going to show you some examples of the major long entry, and probably I'm going to pick the minor short entry. So you've got an example of each, one long, one short, and one major entry and one minor entry. So you've got an example of each one because the exits are handled slightly different. Let me go ahead and set up the charts and come right back to you. We have arrived at the final section of the video, which is the live demo. And I want to remind everyone that the goal of this section of the video is to show you how to manage your orders during a live market environment so that it matches the way that the strategy is placing the order signals on the chart. In other words, we're going to show you what type of order to use, when to place the order, and how to manage any orders during the entire process. And we'll show you how the trade unfolds. Using the on-demand feature, we're going to be using the benefit of hindsight so that we can go back and look at a signal that unfolded in the past and replay that using the on-demand feature. I want to give you a heads up that there are some bugs and quirks about the on-demand feature. I definitely do not recommend using the on-demand feature for practice. If you want to practice executing trades on the platform, I suggest you log into the paper money side of Thinkorswim and do your practice using that. On-demand has its applications, but practicing your trade entries is not the ideal environment. You will be frustrated if you try to learn how to place your orders using the on-demand feature. The only reason I'm using on-demand, it saves a lot of time in video production and makes a nice, real clean presentation for you guys so that you understand every single aspect. So here is the chart that I've got set up here. It is set to a 5-minute time frame, and it's set up for Apple. And the 5-minute time frame is what I've found is least buggy on the on-demand feature. Notice over here I've got the active trader screen open. I've got auto send enabled. I've unchecked the two triggers here, so I'm not going to be using a limit and a stop order for this trade. I'm just simply going to be using the buy market and sell market buttons for this particular trade setup. And let's go ahead and review the signal that we're going to be examining, in particular this one right here, the one that triggers right here at the close of the 1300 bar and exits at the close of the 1505 bar. And this signal type is a major long entry, and it has a minor long exit. And again, the signal occurs when the trend bars change from a min bullish state to a max bullish state. And the trade terminates when the first min bearish bar appears on the chart. If it jumps straight to a max bearish, it will also trigger an exit. But all you have to do is wait for these signals to show up on the chart, and you will have plenty of time. For instance, a 5-minute time frame, the signal will appear on the chart before the bar closes so that you can have plenty of heads up as to when to get ready to place your orders. And again, we're going to execute at the bar close. So let me go ahead and reset the time on the on-demand feature. We're going to be here probably just on this bar right here, 12:55, just before the trigger bar opens, so that we can see how everything unfolds. I also have the alerts turned on, so we'll be seeing how the alerts are functioning in a simulated live environment as well. Okay, so I've got the on-demand feature set to 12:57 p.m. and this is not the bar that is supposed to trigger this entry. You can see that that signal is disappearing and reappearing, okay? Did you see that on the chart? That's very important that you understand how this plays out in a live market. That's why we have to wait until that bar closes, because the signal is not locked in until the bar closes. So you may get an alert and you may see that signal appear on the chart, but until that bar closes, it is not a valid signal for an entry. Okay, we just added another bar to the chart. This is the 1300-hour bar, and this is the one that's going to trigger the entry. Let's go ahead and zoom in now that we've got this set up here. Okay, so you can see that the alert has been triggered and the signal appears on the chart. Again, like I said, this signal is not valid until that bar closes, because that signal is still subject to change up until the point that this bar closes. Okay, and what you saw there is the bar closed, and as soon as that bar closed, I went ahead and hit the buy market button. So we entered the trade here, a theoretical trade that is, at 148.44. You can see as I hover my mouse across the chart, you can see that line up right there, okay? So you can see where that entry is. Right now we don't have any stop loss in place. I don't advise trading without a stop loss. And this particular strategy Does not come with a trailing stop, so if you're interested in applying a trailing stop, you can use any of the built-in trailing stops that are included on the Thinkorswim platform. There's plenty of those available. While we're waiting on this trade to unfold, let me go ahead and show you where to locate those. If you go to strategies and then you look for anywhere that has an X at the end. In fact, if you go ahead and type in LX, then that will narrow your results and it will show you some of the exit strategies that are here. You've got a profit target LX, you got a stop loss LX, a trailing stop LX. We also have some custom exits strategies available on Hahn-Tech website, and so maybe I'll show you where those are located. And for now, let's go ahead and add a few bars to this chart. You can see that this big tall wick right here on this bar, that's totally fictitious. That's part of the glitch that comes with the on-demand feature. And again, that is why I don't recommend that you try to practice using the on-demand feature. Okay, hit the step forward button to add a few more bars to the chart. We're still a long ways from hitting that exit point. So let me go ahead and show you the Hahn-Tech website and where you can go to locate some exit strategies that you can add to this. They're available separately. So you go to Premium Indicators, go to Thinkorswim Premium Trading Tools, and if you scroll down, you will see the trailing stops and targets. That's a package. It actually contains 5 separate chart strategies. It contains one that gives you stop and target levels, and you can see those here. If you zoom in on this chart, you can see that magenta line there is the stop loss, and the cyan line is the profit target. And it also comes with a optional trailing stop exit as well, so you can think about adding this to your order. Like I said, it's available separately, but you also have a couple of others. You got the trailing parabolic long and short exits, as well as the trailing ATR long and short exits. And you can view those here on these screenshots. This one is the trailing ATR. I can tell by the formation of those dots. And then you got another one here. This one is the parabolic trailing stop. You can go ahead and view the demo videos and determine whether or not you are interested in purchasing this package to also be able to apply these to your charts. They will automatically adapt to a chart strategy that handles entries. In fact, if you view that demo video, you will see examples of this particular indicator, the swing pivot trend rotations, using those other stops and exits strategies that we have. But again, as I said, you could also use some of the built-in chart strategies that come with Thinkorswim, and you can just backtest however you like and determine which one works best for you. Okay, I've added a few more bars to the chart, but just as a reminder, what we're looking for is that first magenta or red bar to appear after this series of blue. We may go from blue to yellow before we get to a magenta or a red candle, but we want to wait until that magenta or red candle appears, and we want to wait until that bar closes. So if you're looking at this trade over here as an example, you wait until the close of the first blue bar, max bullish bar, and then for the exit, you wait until the close of the first min bearish in this case, or if it happened to be a max bearish, you would wait until the bar closes, because the signal is not locked in until the bar closes for this particular trade setup. I'll go ahead and pause the video here and add a few more bars to the chart using on demand. And I've added a few more bars to the chart. I actually could jump straight to the bar that exits, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to give you a feel for how these unfold, even though we're taking 3 or 4 bars at a time here on the progression. Just wanted you to see how these things unfold. So let me go ahead and hit the button again, add a few more bars to the chart. Okay, and that time we had an alert for a new neutral trend. So that's the first neutral trend bar, and you can see that that's triggered an alert. And let's see, this is the 1425 bar, and according to my notes, we still have about another 30 minutes of chart time before the exit occurs. So I can add a few more bars to the chart here, and then we're getting really close to the exit. And so we've got a few more bars of neutral trend. So we're just waiting on that very first bar to turn bearish and then close in a bearish trend state, and that will trigger our exit. And again, when we exit this trade, this is going to be wait until the bar closes and press the sell market button. Okay, we're getting close here. We got 1450 on the timestamp here for this bar, so we got another 15 minutes of chart time. And I thought it'd be helpful if I added the trend levels here. So I turn those on. You can see the major swing high here, and you can see the minor swings here as well. And what we're witnessing here is exactly how the trends bars are determined. So you can see that as this bar traded up and above that prior swing high, that it turned to a min bullish color. And what we're waiting for is for the first bar to close below this particular swing low right here. First bar that closes below that swing low is going to turn to min bearish. It would have to cross below this bar to turn max bearish, because that's the most recent major swing low. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, then you need to go back and review the video where I explain all of the settings and how to adjust the various settings on the indicator. Another thing that I'll mention here is if this bar does trade up and above that swing high, that major swing high, then it will change from cyan to dark blue, because it will become max bullish. Okay, just a quick update. You can see that we're starting to form a new minor swing high right here. And this bar did trade up and through, and it triggered an alert. And so did this bar. These two bars right here both triggered an alert for max bullish. But because they didn't close above that line, they didn't lock in that max bullish signal. So they've remained in the min bullish condition. And we are about 5 or 10 minutes of chart time away from this trade being concluded, and we're just waiting on the next bar to open after this one, and the next bar after this is going to trade back below this minor swing low, and when it does, we're going to exit the trade at the close of that bar. Okay, and that was really close right there. That bar itself almost made it all the way down to that swing low, and it closed above it. And now this is the bar, according to my notes, the 1505 bar is the bar that trades down through this level. And you can see that that signal begins to plot as soon as the trade starts to go below that swing low. And so it might be helpful for those who are brand new to using this indicator to plot the levels as I have here, because it may help you understand how the trends develop as the chart unfolds. And again, don't panic when it crosses below this line. This is not an exit yet. We have to wait for this bar to close. Right now, there's still another 3 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes of chart time left before that bar closes. Okay, there it is. The bar closed, and so we hit sell market, and we close out that trade. And that concludes this example of this setup. So again, just a quick review, you wait until the signal bar appears, then you wait until the signal bar closes. You go ahead and manually exit or enter the trade depending on where you're at. So over here, you would manually press the buy market button, and over here you would manually place the sell market button. And that is how you would manage your orders in a way that is in line with the way the strategy is designed to keep track and backtest all of the results. So by all means, you want to make sure that if you're backtesting and optimizing, that when you get to this point where you're actually trading off the chart, you want to make sure you understand which type of orders to use and when to execute. And so the next example is going to be, I'm going to try to find a short entry, and I'm going to use one of the minor entries. So I'm going to try to find a minor bearish entry for a short signal and walk you through that trade as another example, and that will conclude this section of the video. Okay, I've changed the chart settings to show the minor short entries and exits. And I think I've identified the specific signal that I want to show you as a demonstration. This one right here, it's a minor short entry. Minor meaning that it's entering on a minor bearish, okay? If it were a long entry, it would enter on a min bullish, okay, instead of min bearish. But in this case, it's a short signal. And then what we do is we enter at the close of this bar, and then we hold that position until we get the first bar of anything other than bearish. That's what this any SX means. It's any short exit, and what that means is anything that's not magenta or red. So it could be yellow, it could be cyan, or it could be blue. Whatever color is here, if it's not magenta or red, then it's an exit. Pretty simple. But again, in both cases, we're waiting for the bars to close, because the signals and the trend statuses are not locked in until the bars close. Okay, when I come back to you, we're going to be over here waiting for this bar to open, and then I'll show you step by step how the trade unfolds. Okay, I've got everything set up here. This is the 12:15 bar. The next bar is the one that triggers the entry, and again, it's waiting on a close below that minor swing low pivot, which will change the bar from yellow to cyan, and that will be a min bearish short entry. Just like this section over here, you can see that there's a yellow bar here and then a min bearish bar here, and then it holds until the first bar that is not bearish. Okay, so it's just very much like this one over here and this one right here as well. That's what this one is going to play out like. And again, I've got the active trader window open over here to use for my entries and exits. I've got auto send enabled, so all I have to do is click the buy market or the sell market. I got the bracket orders disabled. They're unchecked because I'm not going to be using a stop order or a limit order for a target. And here you can see that the signal is beginning to take shape here on this bar, but this, according to my notes anyway, is not the bar that triggers the entry. Let's go ahead and zoom into this a little bit closer. There we go. That's going to give us a little bit better view. And again, we have to wait until the bar closes. The signal is not valid until the bar closes. And according to my notes, this is not the bar that gives us our entry. And right there you can see why, right? Because as soon as this bar trades back up above that minor swing low, that min bearish condition is erased and it changes back to neutral. And so that's why this demo is so important, because I need you to understand that the bars have to close before each of their colors or signals are locked in. Until that bar closes, you only have a potential. Okay, we've added a new bar to the chart, and this is the bar that's going to end up giving us a signal to enter the trade. And you can see that it's already trying to form another swing low pivot right here, but that is going to be negated as soon as this bar trades below the low of this bar. Okay, just a quick update. Notice that now we've got a signal here, minor short entry, but we haven't entered the trade yet. We have to wait for this bar to close, because if this price trades back up above that minor swing low before it closes, that signal is erased. So we must wait until that bar closes. Okay, we're about 5 or 3 seconds away from that bar closing, so I'm going to make sure I'm ready and hit that button as soon as that bar closes. There we go. Okay. There's a little bit of slippage there. If you hover your mouse over the entry point, you can see the crosshairs on the chart. The entry is at 5:27.09, and the strategy looks like the strategy is recording the entry at about 5:27.13. So within a few pennies of that. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure you keep track of your slippage as you're doing your analysis, as you're doing your testing. This is what we would call a walk forward analysis. You've already completed all of your back testing, all of your optimizations. In other words, does the optimized parameters perform in the way that you expect when you walk forward and trade in a live environment? And from here, all I've got to do is manage the chart by adding a few bars at a time and update you as the trade progresses. So let me go ahead and do that and come back to you after I pause the video. There we go. I've added a few more bars to the chart. You can see the trade is in the red by a little bit. It's coming back up against us here. And we know that this is a profitable trade because of the benefit of hindsight. But if you don't know that it's a profitable trade, then you just have to sit on your hands until you get your signal to exit. I'm going to add a few more bars to the chart and come back to you. Okay, just another quick update. You can see we formed another swing low pivot and then closed below that. So it looks like the trend is continuing in the bearish condition, which is good for our trade, but we already know how it plays out. Let me go ahead and check the time. It's 12:45 on the chart, and our exit occurs at 1400 hours. I got plenty of space to add more bars. Let me go ahead and do that and update you in a second. All right, got a few more bars added to the chart here, and it looks like this one is trying to form a major swing low right here. You see that red dot right there? It looks like it's trying to form a major swing low. It hasn't completed yet, but there's also a minor swing low at the same time. As you know, based on the settings, a minor swing low is hidden within a major swing low. Just a quick update. We added a few more bars to the chart and see that we formed a minor swing high right here. Another quick update. I added some more bars to the chart, and sure enough, we traded back below that major swing low. And as soon as that bar traded below it, it changed from min bearish to max bearish. You can see we're also forming another swing low here, minor swing low. Just a couple of more bars added to the chart there, and I just wanted to update you. I'm going to add a couple of more and come back to you here. Okay, and here we've got a new alert for a neutral trend. This is the first neutral trend bar. And you can see that it turned yellow as it traded above the previous major swing low. But as soon as it traded back below that, it reverted back to max bearish. Just another example that these signals are not locked in until the bar closes. So you're expected to see the changes of color while the bar is still active, but once it closes, it's locked in and locked in for good. And according to my notes, we've got about 10 more minutes of chart time left before the trade is going to be concluded. So I don't want to hit the step forward button to add more bars to the chart because I might miss it. So let me go ahead and pause the video and wait for it to conclude, and then I'll come back to you. Just a quick update here. This is the bar that's going to end up concluding the trade. It is the 1400 hours bar, and we have to wait for this bar to close before we can exit this trade. The signal, again, I'll remind you, is not locked in until the bar closes. So even though it shows here as any short exit and the bar is yellow, it's the first bar that is not bearish in the series of this trade, then we still have to wait until this bar closes. So you must be patient and wait. Okay, we're getting really close here. Chart time, we got about 30 seconds to go. So I'm going to turn this back down to normal speed instead of 3 times speed. And all I'm doing is watching the clock here, watching the minutes tick by, watching the seconds tick by, and there it is. Okay, so we closed out of that trade. We hit the buy market at the close of this bar to take us out of that trade. And just a quick review, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the chart here, but you can see we've got a minor swing pivot high here. We've got a major swing pivot low here developing, and that's why this bar is turning yellow. It's because we're stuck between two levels, right? A support and resistance level. Over here, we've been making lower lows and lower highs, but now all of a sudden the trend is changing because we are no longer making lower lows and lower highs, and that's why this bar changes from bearish to neutral. I hope that was very helpful, and I hope that you understand how to place your orders then for the different order types that are presented by this chart strategy. I really hope that this tool is useful and helpful for you in all that you are doing with your trading. I hope that it helps you to become a better trader and to be able to backtest and optimize your strategy and parameters to fit your risk tolerance and your specific trading style. And thanks for your support. Take care, everyone.